Welcome back to the Week 13 edition of my weekly NFL Pick'em. 2020 continues to provide us with a long list of firsts, and this is definitely the first time that I'll ever be recording one of these videos while watching a game from the previous week live on a Wednesday afternoon. Right now we've got RG3 throwing the ball to Dez Bryant. It's looking like a MUT starter pack team, you know, when you first log in and they give you all these like low 60 overall players, which reminds me, I was giving away a copy of Madden last week. I appreciate all you guys sharing what you were thankful for. Really enjoyed reading them. I tried to hit like on all of them or heart all of them, but there were just so many, and the holiday weekend got away from me really quickly. But I went with Samuel Ricciuolo. Hope I didn't butcher that last name too bad, but Sam, definitely hit me up on Twitter and I will give you a copy for your PS4. I've got a few more codes, so I'd like to keep doing this until I run out. For this one, I'd love to see in the comments one positive thing that 2020 has brought you, whether it be football related, life related, whatever. What's one good thing that came out of this year for you personally? But without further ado, and you know, before they change the schedule for week 13 on me, let's hurry up and get into these picks. Bengals versus Dolphins. The Dolphins should be a good example for how quickly you can turn things around for the Bengals fans who probably need some hope to get through the rest of this one. The good thing you guys have going for you right now is that Zach Taylor has got your guys playing hard. The Dolphins haven't gone back to Tua yet, and he's dealing with a thumb issue now, so don't rush him back and let Ryan Fitzpatrick handle these games against lesser opponents. Dolphins win this one 23-13. Browns versus Titans. This might be one of the games of the week, actually. I've been waiting for the Browns offense to get some quality weather conditions so they can open things up, and they finally got that last week in Jacksonville. These two running backs are fun to watch, and this feels like a very Cleveland-y team, if you know what that means. I'm still a little concerned with Baker Mayfield. For example, that missed touchdown pass was all because he was just too slow to shift to the second read. I wouldn't be so quick to criticize him for that one play if it was a tough read to make, but it was literally in his face. He just looks kind of erratic at times, and is clearly not as natural of an athlete as some, but then in post-game interviews he reminds me that this game is not strictly played just on the field.
There's only two things I hate more than missing throws, and it's lying and skim milk, and skim milk's just water lying about being milk, so gotta make those throws.
As for the Titans, hey, all hail King Henry. Got the man on all my fantasy teams. Been screaming his praises for years. This guy is a generational running back. He's like a Brandon Jacobs 2.0. He's got way more speed than Jacobs, but all the same size. And this Titans team is going to go as far as he goes. He opens up everything in the passing game for the play action. And by the way, does anybody get Anquan Bolden vibes from AJ Brown? This guy is really good and totally distracting from the fact that Corey Davis is finally having a breakout season. But AJ Brown is every bit as physical as Derrick Henry, just in a wide receiver body, a big wide receiver. It's unreal actually how Ole Miss didn't have more success with AJ Brown and DK Metcalf at wide receiver. This Browns Titan game could get pretty high scoring, or the clock might not ever stop with these two rushing attacks. I'm not really sure which one I think is going to happen yet. I got to go with the Titans though, because they're one of the top three teams in this league when everything's clicking for them. Titans win 28-24. Lions versus Bears. What a terrible game. Lions fans, I'm sorry about your Thanksgiving, but hey, at least Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were fired, so you've got that going for you. By the way, if you guys want something funny to laugh at here, go check out Matt Patricia's burner account on Twitter. This is either Matt Patricia himself running it, or it's his mom. It's super embarrassing and cringy, but for some reason I love that kind of humor. And Matt Patricia just seems like such an unlikable guy that it's really easy to laugh at a potential burner account for him. As for the Bears, I assume that Mitch Trubisky is going to get the start this week. The Packers game was a terrible time to get thrust back in as the starter, but what do you expect from another NFC North coach that's not making it to 2021? I'm sure the Lions will play inspired football under head coach Darrell Bevell, kind of like the Falcons did, but I think that the Bears have another win in them, and they catch the Lions outside in the cold and get it done this week. Bears win 23-17. Colts versus Texans. The Colts defense clearly isn't the same without DeForest Buckner to stop the run, but luckily for them, the Texans aren't going to challenge them on the ground unless it comes from the quarterback position. Their use of Jacoby Brissett is what the Eagles should have been doing all year, and I would encourage it more for the Colts if they didn't just get held in check by the Titans, but it seemed to be effective in the scenarios they used him in. I don't know. I'd welcome more Jacoby Brissett looks, but only if it's translating to wins, you know? As for the Texans, RIP Will Fuller. This guy, he either gets hurt or he's getting by on PEDs, which still cost him a third of the season. But shout out to Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller for the 70 fantasy points they got me headed into the Thanksgiving weekend. That gave me at least something to relax about for the rest of the weekend, which was much needed given the circumstances. Oh, my wife's COVID test came back negative, by the way, so that was good. So it went from being potentially the worst Thanksgiving ever to at least the second or third worst Thanksgiving ever. But getting that negative result on Black Friday was definitely the highlight of the entire weekend for me. But anyways, this Texans offense is now down to Brandon Cooks, Kiki Kati, CMC and Randall Cobb as their top wide receivers because they released Kenny Stills before the Will Fuller suspension for some reason. But even without Buckner, I think the Colts can slow down the Texans offense because they can't run the ball effectively anyways. Colts win 24-19. Jaguars versus Vikings. See, Doug Marrone is doing what Adam Gase should be doing, getting his team in position for a top pick while also not ruining his chances of getting hired elsewhere on his way out the door. Speaking of job security, is Mike Zimmer going to be looking for work this offseason? I'm just asking for a friend. If the Vikings blow this one, I say yes, but if they can finish the season respectfully, I say he gets another chance. I keep telling my wife and anybody else that's thinking about making any kind of drastic life decisions in 2020 to just hold off if it's not time sensitive, because this year is just messing with everybody's head. So I say Zimmer gets another chance. Vikings win 29-16. Raiders versus Jets. Don't do this to me. I just got on board with these Gruden Raiders, and then last week, the old Derek Carr shows up, and the Raiders got upset by the Falcons, or more like embarrassed. Let's chalk it up as a bad day at the office. Now the Raiders need a chump to whip up on to get their confidence back, and the Jets are the perfect team for that. Adam Gase, he's falling apart at the seams, and either doesn't know who's calling the plays, or just doesn't care at this point. Yeah, Raiders win this one 35-23. Saints versus Falcons. Last week we got a very rare matchup in the NFL featuring a tight end and a wide receiver starting at quarterback for the two respective teams. This is a concept I've ever seen executed in Madden, and the real life counterpart was about as terrible as you would expect. I blame the ghost of Tebow for making that such a terrible game. Meanwhile, the Falcons, they really should consider Raheem Morris for their future head coaching position, but I know that they won't. The Falcons showed their ceiling of potential against the Raiders and did so without Julio Jones or Todd Gurley. Now they get their second look at Taysom Hill as a full-time starter, and I'm sure they'll be more prepared for him this time around. Deion Jones needs to continue to play like a top linebacker in the league, and if there's going to be an early end of the Taysom Hill era, I think it's going to be in this game. Otherwise, Hill really is going to be the starting quarterback of the Saints until Breeze come back. That's just crazy to me. But it's the mismatch for the Falcons offensive line against the Saints defense. For me, they've got to make sweeping changes to the right side, or else Cameron Jordan's going to have 3 sacks again. Saints win 24-19. Washington versus the Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington has a COVID outbreak this week, because it just seems like that's to be expected for teams that have the Steelers coming up on their schedule. I've been hesitant to think that Alex Smith could win games in the NFL, but he has shrugged off the rust, and now Washington has to be the favorites to win the division. The defense is built for Alex Smith and his game managing style, and they really only need a few more wins this season to lock up the NFC East. However, it's more likely that the Steelers will be the ones with the COVID outbreak after playing the Ravens, who are struggling to contain their own, and that's the only way that I see the Washington football team beating the Steelers. Steelers win 23-13. Rams versus Cardinals. After beating the Bucs on the road, I said that the Rams could literally beat any team in the league on any given Sunday. Last week against the 49ers, they reminded us all how they can also lose to any team in the league on any given Sunday. Jared Goff is going to be such a frustrating quarterback for the next 5 years or so for the Rams. It's a good thing that they've got the best pound-for-pound football player in the league in Aaron Donald to counter the hot and cold play of Jared Goff. At least you know from him you are getting an all-pro effort every single week. And this division has just got some really good coaching, and I credit the 49ers coaching staff for their upset in LA. The exception to that quality coaching in the West is, of course, Cliff Kingsbury. Not that he can't get there one day, but he's still got a lot to prove, and a win against the Rams here would go a long way towards establishing some cred in this gauntlet of a division. I don't think the Cardinals have the defense to disrupt the Rams offense like the 49ers do. Rams win this one 28-20. Giants versus Seahawks. I gotta say, it's not good when your head coach is a former special teams coach and your special teams is costing you games, or at least putting you in a really tough position to win them. Daniel Jones' hamstring is also why you don't want to run your quarterback too often, but their offense has definitely looked at its best when Daniel Jones has been keeping defenses off tilt with designed runs. If Daniel Jones can't progress as a passer, then he's gonna end up like Blaine Gabbert, an athletic backup that continues to find work but is never really good enough to be a starter. Somehow this Giants team is in first place in the NFC East, but now Colt McCoy is starting for them, and he should be able to at least put some points up against the Seahawks defense. The Seahawks, they used the Eagles game to fix some issues and continue to rebuild Russell Wilson's confidence for this playoff stretch coming up. It was good to have Chris Carson back in the lineup for them. You see how much that physical running style really complements the things that they want to do with Russell Wilson. And every time DK Metcalf dominates a game, just know that I'm at home smiling like a proud draft nerd that I am. I really do love watching this dude and still stand by everything I said in my pre-draft scouting report, and somehow he might even be better than I thought, to be honest. And it's a good thing because the Seahawks offense has needed to carry the Seahawks defense for much of the season, but I do think that side of the ball can only get better with Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams finding their fits within the defense. Seahawks win this one 33-17. Patriots versus Chargers. Old Cam Newton's looking like an off-brand version of himself more and more every day. I bet if the Patriots coaching staff felt more comfortable with Jarrett Stidham as their starter, they'd call more designed runs because they wouldn't be afraid of Cam Newton getting hurt, because he clearly isn't getting any better as a passer in his old age. I don't like the bad wide receivers excuse, but I get it based on the offense that Josh McDaniels is calling. Really, my only hope for the Patriots to accomplish anything is assuming that they are keeping the triple option offense under wraps until the playoffs. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on over there. But I got a question for you. I kind of posed it last week. If you could have Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert, who would you take? This is a serious question because I think it's a legitimately tough question to answer. I want to know what you guys think. By the way, Herbert would come free of all the bad luck that he's likely already absorbed in his time with the Chargers franchise. He's just so freaking good, and man, this guy's got a higher ceiling than most of the quarterbacks in the league. But it might be time to let Anthony Lynn go. It sucks because there's already a lack of black head coaches in the NFL, and I really thought that Anthony Lynn was going to succeed, especially after watching him on Hard Knocks, but he's got to be held to the same standards, and the botching in the Bills game and a few others this season have just been too much for me. Maybe you give him one more shot in a normal season. Like I said, you don't want to make any major life-changing decisions right now, but also you got to consider that Justin Herbert doesn't need to have head coaches cycled through here every other year. We've seen that happen to too many young quarterbacks, and it just completely stunts their growth. But anyways, this Patriots and Chargers game is one of the hardest games to pick because of the coaching. I am going to go with the Chargers in an upset by overwhelming the Patriots defensively. I think they've got too many weapons and are too explosive. Chargers win 31-27. Eagles versus Packers. Now, I don't listen to them as much as I used to, but I heard on the Fantasy Footballers waiver wire episode this week, somebody said that Carson Wentz was suffering from an above the beard injury, and that really might be the issue with the Eagles quarterback. While Carson Wentz continues to get worse each week, so does Doug Peterson. It's hard to believe that it was only a year ago that the Eagles went into Green Bay and upset the Packers, but it feels like these two teams are in very different places now. And oh yeah, Packers fans, I figured out why I haven't been rooting for the Packers or my boy Aaron Rodgers here for a while. As a former All-Pro Youth Soccer League referee, I understand that being a ref is a hard, thankless job, and some people like that referees bring a human element side to the game, but this is professional sports. We as fans, we don't want the human element side, especially when it's pretty blatant on the TV broadcast what the call should be, and the obvious bias that the Packers get from the refs every week, every season, it's just draining to watch. I'm only going to give one example, but I want someone else to start a comment chain of all the recent examples where the Packers have been just absolutely blessed by the refs. I'm sure Lions fans probably have a few. From Sunday night, the most egregious non-call was the two pretty clear face mask penalties on the Trubisky fumble recovered for a touchdown. I know that it happens every week, but there's statistical proof that it happens more to the Packers than any other team. I'll try and find the stat for you this week. I think it's from last year anyways, but I think I speak for everybody when we say that we don't want that kind of bias in the league. We don't want to watch WWE. It's lame, and everyone knows the Packers will lose their first road playoff game, but you know, whatever. Enjoy the regular season wins. Packers win this one 28-21. Broncos versus Chiefs. Now, everybody knows that poor Kendall Hilton looked awful, and I understand that that was a desperately pathetic position to be in, but I don't think that Vic Fangio has taken enough blame for the situation that he put the Broncos in. I know it was short notice, but the Broncos led one of the least creative game plans possible given the circumstances. I mean, they looked defeated before even stepping on the field. Hilton should not have been asked to drop back and throw a single traditional drop back pass downfield, but at least this week they should have a real quarterback available this week, or at least Blake Bortles, but it won't matter because the Chiefs are just so unfair. To make another Madden analogy, this is like when you've got 3 or 4 years into your franchise, you've developed a god squad, you can literally dick around for 3 quarters and then just throw it deep to your cheese wide receiver with 99 speed, 99 acceleration to make a comeback in pretty much any given game, even down to having the confidence to come out throwing the ball when you need to run out the clock. I'll say it again because I've said it a few times this year earlier on. If the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, something catastrophic happened because no other team is stopping them for 60 minutes. Chiefs win 38-20. On Monday Night Football, we've got the Bills versus the 49ers. The Bills are a pretty scary team, and I think that Sean McDermott deserves to be in the Coach of the Year discussion, but they still feel unreliable, if that makes sense. This could be a trap game for them, and if they lose, I'm going to have a hard time trusting them in the playoffs. But the best thing about the 49ers upsetting the Rams last week is that it doesn't make them look completely hopeless coming into this one, and with it being on Monday night, nobody wants a stinker, and now there's actually some hope that they could produce a similar defensive performance this week. And oh yeah, Richard Sherman's back, so he can earn that one more contract, you know? But hey, if he can help the defense perform like that, then he might deserve one more payday. You know he's looking forward to a primetime game, so hopefully he's mic'd up. I don't think the 49ers have the offensive firepower to keep up with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and the Bills, if they're smart, will line up Stephon Diggs opposite of Richard Sherman as much as possible. Bills win this one 21-17. And then this week we've got Tuesday night football action to make up for the lack of Thursday night because the Cowboys versus Ravens had to be pushed back because of the really ugly Ravens-Steelers game taking place on Wednesday night that I'm watching right now as I'm recording this. But yeah, so do any of you guys want that Cowboys yearly Thanksgiving slot? Because I don't want it anymore. I'm tired of them making me miserable on one of my favorite holidays. This year was particularly miserable, and I didn't get to watch the game as closely as I usually do, but I just kind of knew how it was going to go when the offensive line lost Zach Martin early in the game. Because this is taking place almost 2 weeks after the Cowboys played their previous game, they should be well rested, but they still aren't going to have Cam Irving at left tackle or Zach Martin at right guard or right tackle. Their season's pretty much falling apart, as well as the Ravens. Not only were they struggling offensively throughout the course of the entire season, but now they are having a COVID outbreak worse than the one the Titans had at the beginning of the year. But I will say, at least now the Ravens and the Ravens fans have someone other than Lamar Jackson or Greg Roman that they can comfortably blame on for this 2020 performance in the history books. And his name is Steve Saunders, the Ravens strength and conditioning coach, who, mind you, spent almost a month this summer tweeting hashtag let them play almost every single day. This guy he got COVID, refused to report symptoms to the team, and still didn't wear a mask around players. I've got no patience for people acting like this level of tool. So here's your villain for ruining the season. I think that everybody can jump on board and claim that Steve Saunders somehow impacted their team's NFL season. But yeah, as far as the game goes, even RG3 can probably beat this Cowboys defense. It sucks because if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, with Baltimore being only a couple hours from my house, I would definitely be going to this game, especially with it being on a Tuesday night. But I guess without COVID, it wouldn't even be on a Tuesday night. It would have been on a Thursday night. But I'm also not paying money to see this trash squad that the Cowboys have right now. Ravens win this one 23-21. That's going to do it for me. Because this is a weird week with a bunch of crappy games, didn't know the final standings of the Pick'em. I'm going to save the Pick'em recap for next week and just do 2 weeks of recap. Remember, for a chance to win Madden, share your positive results from 2020 down in the comments. Let me know what console you have. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all in the next video.